It's not easy. Yeah. I go to the tree like I'm hunting. Scent control is huge. I put my camera in the ozone bag, everything. I make sure deer are not going to smell me. I mean, they're still going to smell you, but everything you do helps a little bit. Making sure whatever stand we get, the wind's right. I'm always on the apps, like checking the wind direction, checking the barometer, doing everything and going over it with Aaron or Rock or Chuck or James, whoever, making sure we're in the right set, that it's going to work, because you can't just pop yourself up in any tree and have all that extra scent and everything else and think you're going to kill a deer.
Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 273. J.C. Hall, open season and on the road. Support for the Big Buck Registry and the Deer Hunt Podcast comes from Rackology. Everything you need in one bag. Now available at Rural King and Orslyn Farm and Home storefronts. Or online at www.rackology.org. Minus 33 merino wool layering system. Timeless natural insulation, keeping you warm on the coldest days while staying breathable and wicking away moisture on the wet ones without the old school itch of regular wool. Grizzly Ears, the most advanced engineered wireless earbuds for the outdoors. Covert scouting cameras, remote cameras for hunting, wildlife, and security. Quiet Cat, the all-terrain electric bicycle. Visit quietcat.com. That's QUIETKAT.com and use the discount code BIGBUCK15 to secure 15% off your next Quiet Cat purchase. And Big Buck merch. You can get cool, high-quality Big Buck t-shirts, long-sleeve t-shirts, and hoodies. And show support for this podcast by visiting www.bigbuckregistry.com/MERCH. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey, this is Bob Dumong from the Buckhorn Boat Dog, listening to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hello, this is Cuz Strickland with Mossy Oak, and you're about to listen to the podcast that I listen to 16 and a half hours nonstop. The Big Buck Registry is the best out there.
Hey, y'all, this is Heather Shepard with To Be Outdoors and the Dixie Deer Classic. You are about to tune in to my favorite podcast, the Big Buck Registry.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow predators. My name is Jay, and thank you for tuning in to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. For Dusty Phillips and Jim Keller and the entire staff here at the Big Buck Registry, welcome to this week's show. There are a couple things I'd like you to do for us if you could. If you would, please check us out on iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review. With your help, we're going to try and push this show up the iTunes charts. I know we have a lot of listeners out there, and I need you to take some action. I need you to leave a review and subscribe to the show. If you do subscribe, that'll give you access and notification each and every week that a new show is released. You can also access this show in its entirety on YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. It's all right there for you to access on demand at your fingertips. Regarding the harness program, we have an ample supply of harnesses to give away from our volunteer donors. If you're in need of a full-body harness, please send an email to jay@bigbuckregistry.com. J.C. Hall might not be on the trigger most of the time, but he's hunting all of the time. When he does hunt for himself, it's a quality over quantity kind of thing. These days, J.C. is frequently on tour with the likes of country singer Aaron Lewis, and he's running the camera or editing the show for On the Road Outdoors. JC says he's always hunting in a sense because the footage needs capturing and he doesn't want to be the guy that messes up the hunt. JC is an interesting guy with a colorful past. He studied golf at Penn State, was a pit crew member on the NASCAR circuit, is now a producer for Open Season TV and editor for On the Road. We'll get to our entire interview with JC Hall in just one moment, but before we do, let's hear from our friends at Rackology, minus 33 merino wool products, and Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Hey, it's Eric Fitzgerald here with Rackology. Wanted to visit you briefly about one of the most exciting products that we got in the market with Rackology. This is our food plot fertilizer. You can supplement your deer right through your food plot with this product. This is not your normal NPK. This has got so many goodies in this bag. Basically what it does is it makes your soil work for you so you can get by with just using fertilizer like this and not a lot of synthetics. If you want a good food plot and you want deer coming in and healthy plants, look at the food plot fertilizer through Rackology. Check us out at rackology.org. Thanks for tuning in.
Let's talk about a hunter's layering system for a sec. We need to be ready for any weather that Mother Nature throws at us. With the layering concepts that Minus 33 has created with their incredible merino wool products, they've got you covered. The Minus 33's merino wool expedition weight garments will keep you warm on the coldest late season days while regulating and wicking away moisture in a way that only merino wool can do. You see, wool will absorb up to 30% of its weight in moisture without leaving you feeling wet or clammy, and wool insulates better than cotton or polyester and protects against hypothermia on those late season hunts. And here's another interesting point. You might not think of wool for early season, but with the Minus 33 wicking technology, I'll take a lightweight Minus 33 base layer any day in warm weather. Merino wool fibers naturally reject any bacteria found in moisture or sweat and gives you double protection against odor as your target buck approaches. Visit www.minus33.com to learn more about Minus 33's layering technology. Use the code BIGBUCK33 to get 10% off your next order.
Now here's Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Our first story this week. Woman claims Tinder banned her over hunting photos, calls out double standard. This story is from the Fox News website and was reported by Alexandra Diabler. One woman was banned after taking a shot at love. A Vermont woman is claiming she was permanently removed from the popular dating app Tinder because of her hunting photos. The woman, who wishes to only be identified by her first name, Nicole, said she was vacationing in San Francisco and opened up Tinder to show her friend her profile. A couple of hours later, she opened the app. She said she got a notification and a gray screen that read, "Your account has been banned for activity that violates our terms of use." Nicole said she has 2 hunting photos of herself on the app, but that she cropped each picture to be in compliance with the app's regulations. "I cropped it so there were no weapons, no blood. My family, we are not trophy hunters, we hunt for food," Nicole told ABC7. "We respect the animal, we respect the outdoors, we eat every part of the deer that we can and only take shots when we feel it's going to be a good shot and it's going to take the animal as quickly and painlessly as possible." However, someone in the Bay Area found Nicole's photo of her with a harvested deer to be offensive and reported it into the app, as well as tracked down her employer and sent him a message about the hunting pictures. Nicole was shocked, finding none of her profile pictures offensive. She reached out to Tinder to inquire about the ban, but received no response until she posted on Twitter, along with a handful of men who had also posted hunting photos and had not been banned. Nicole's profile was reinstated, and Tinder is looking into the matter. She also reached out to report the original user for harassment after emailing her boss. However, there has been no update as to whether her profile was banned, and Nicole is not sure if she wants to continue using Tinder. A spokesperson for Tinder said in a statement to Fox News, "We are committed to maintaining a positive ecosystem and take any reports of behavior that is contrary to our terms of use or community guidelines very seriously. We have a team dedicated to investigating each report. The account in question has been reported multiple times. The matter has been resolved and they can now use Tinder." New bill would let landowners sell deer permits to out-of-state hunters. This story is from the KSNT.com website and reported by Alec Gartner. Deer hunting is a big moneymaker for many rural areas in Kansas. People travel across the state, even from other states, to participate. A new bill in the legislature would give those people outside of the state a new way to hunt in Kansas. Mickey Holloway runs Heartland Outdoor Trophy Hunts, a business that helps out-of-towners hunt in Kansas. He believes the new bill, which would allow people that own at least 80 acres to sell the deer permit they acquire to an out-of-state hunter, is a good idea. He said the reputation of big bucks in Kansas will always have people wanting to hunt here. Not everyone sees it that way, though. If you start allowing more people to come in and hunt and just hunt those, we're going to lose genetics. We're going to lose that revenue that we're gaining in this state through out-of-state hunters, said State Representative Eric Smith. But Corbett said each person has the option if they want to use the program. The bill would let 1 permit to be sold per landowner. It is planned for a final vote in the House Wednesday, and if passed, will head to the Senate. The legislature has failed to pass similar bills in years past, and on Tuesday, the House narrowly moved the bill forward by just 3 votes. Mississippi deer hunters greeted by bear climbing stand. This story is from the WAPT ABC Channel 6 website and was reported by Brooke Laser. 2 Mississippi hunters were surprised to lay their eyes upon a black bear while deer hunting in Cleveland, Mississippi. Jordan Coopwood and Andrew Smith of Marigold were sitting in their ladder stand when 2 deer ran off suddenly. Shortly after looking ahead to their nearby food plot, the hunters realized the black dots they were seeing in the far distance were actually bears. One bear did not hesitate to physically climb the hunters' tree stand, smelling their honey buns that the hunters had packed for breakfast. Realizing the bear was getting closer and closer, Coopwood finally yelled, and the bear immediately retreated. Mississippi's bear population has vastly increased in the last few years. Typically, bears are attracted by their search for food, so hunters may pay close attention even when up off the ground. Check out WAPT.com for a brief video of the exciting hunt. Editorial. In the last episode of the Deer News, we included a story about the potential for CWD to infect humans, as well as a story about a doctor who claimed to have found a cure for CWD. A link to the story about a CWD cure was also posted on the Big Buck Registry Facebook page, and it went viral. The article about a possible cure for CWD has garnered so much attention, the National Deer Alliance posted a recommendation to urge caution when considering research claims on their website. We couldn't agree more, but do strive to represent current events related to deer hunting and deer hunting news stories. However, as you know, we also urge caution when it comes to hunting safety, whether it's related to tree stands, bears climbing after your breakfast, or the venison you are about to eat for dinner. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry Deer News. Special thanks to Daniel Applebaum and John Geis for leads on the stories this week. For links to the stories featured this week, please check our show notes at www.bigbuckregistry.com. If you have any ideas for future topics or have any questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Thanks to Jim Keller for the Deer News. Without further ado, here is J.C. Hall. J.C. Hall, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How are you, my friend?
Hey, man. Good. Thanks for having me.
So we're gearing up to go to these days. I mean, you guys are always on the road. What's coming up next?
Actually, we are leaving today for West Texas, about an hour south of San Angelo, to go thermal hog hunting and coyote hunting. That's kind of it's the place we deer hunt and turkey hunt at in Texas.
Right.
So it's overrun with predators and hogs. So we're just going to do our part and going out there and try to control the population to make the deer herd and turkey herd kind of thrive a little better.
You just took the words out of my mouth. You're doing your part to keep the predators under control and hogs under control. I think that's great. I think that's part of hunting. I think everybody should be doing that. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's as hunters and conservationists, that's something that should be a top priority for everybody. I mean, not enough people do it, and everywhere we go, I mean, not so much with hogs. With hogs in the South, I mean, you see their population is just booming. But coyotes, man, it's everywhere we go, we notice a lot more daytime activity when we're in deer stands.
Yep.
Of coyotes. I mean, we were in Kansas this year and had a coyote bed down on top of a hay bale 40 yards in front of us in rifle season.
Wow.
And sunned itself on top of a hay bale. Knowing we were there, we were making noises at it. I mean, we didn't want to. There's a couple big deer in the area, so we didn't kill it.
Right.
You know, but I mean, it's just whenever you start seeing predators out in daytime, not scared of humans, you know you have a big problem.
Yeah. So was it not getting managed that way, and were they not taking care of the predators where you were?
No, they do. The whole off season, they trap, they do hunts. It's just, I mean, they're getting smarter, you know. Right. It's like I don't want to use that example. That's pretty bad. But if you say you're hunting coyotes and you call them and 5 of them come running in and you shoot one of them, it's going to be a lot harder to kill those other 4 now.
Right. Education.
So right. Exactly. So that's part of it. And not enough people are hunting them. I mean, you're seeing now that they're trying to outlaw the coyote competition hunts where they have like big dog hunts and the most dogs, and these groups are coming in and saying that, I don't know, that's I don't know what their deal is, but
well, to me, it's silly. It's
they're
silly,
shutting it down, right? and I mean, and they're not understanding that the hunters are more conservationists than anybody in these groups. We care about the wildlife more than anybody, and that's why you have to do it. You have to have population control.
Right. You can't knock down a coyote population even if you hunted them endlessly. No. You just can't do it. Same with the hogs. There's no solution there other than to maintain.
Right. I mean, I watched people poison hogs in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2 years, there's 1,000 hogs on the property again.
Right.
There's, like you said, you can maintain it, and that's about all you can do.
Yeah. You will not wipe them out. That is impossible. No. So you're part of Open Season TV. You're part of the On the Road Outdoors. I'm just going through some of your bio stuff here on Facebook. You studied golf at Penn State. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was my deal, man. That was my dream, was to be a professional golfer.
No kidding.
And yep, I went to college and played for a year and won money in a professional tournament and lost my amateur status and got kicked out of school.
Wow.
So
whoops.
I was 20 years old thinking, that's all right. I'm just here to be a golfer anyways. It turns out I'm really not that good. So that's why I do this now.
Guys always tell me that they're no good when they are really good.
It's a humble thing.
Yeah.
It's just because so many people golf now, so there's so many, just thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are so much better than I am. So that's why I say, and by a lot of people say I'm really not that good. I mean, I could shoot par at any course in the country probably, but that's not good enough to really win anything. So,
gotcha. So you don't seem too torn up about it. Just get
No, I'm having a blast, man.
And you won some money. That's pretty good. Yeah. So you're from Pennsylvania originally.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about your life in Pennsylvania growing up.
Pennsylvania, gosh, it's so long ago. Mm-hmm. Well, I could do it with hunting. I started this whole deal, me and my best friend in high school. We used to watch, I'd stay over his house and we'd watch old Dan Fitzgerald videos.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
So remember, the VCR tapes, if people remember them.
I do. I'm old enough. It wasn't
that long ago.
For me, that's nothing, but.
Right. Yeah. Same here.
Right.
But we used to watch them all the time. And, one day we're like, man, we could do this stuff. My family had a cabin and close to 2,200 acres, and his family had a cabin not too far away from it with 1,800 acres. And nobody ever bow hunted. Pennsylvania they're known for their rifle season. Schools are off the first Monday and all that. And so we started bow hunting, and we stole our grandparents' big old VHS cameras.
Right.
And we went up and just started filming ourselves hunting. And it took a couple of years, but finally, we got some kills, and I don't know. There's just something about it where I decided that's what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And the rest is history, I guess.
Is Pennsylvania still one of the no hunting on Sunday states?
It's actually right now. I don't know if they just voted on it or they're just about to vote on it, but it passed the first deal. I haven't lived there in a while, so I was trying to follow it along on people talk about it on Facebook, but it really, really looks like that it's going to pass this year, that they're going to allow Sunday hunting, but as of right now, they don't.
Gotcha.
It's one of the few states.
What's your opinion on that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Man, I mean, I never understood not being able to hunt on Sundays. I mean, I understand some people don't want to hunt on Sundays, and that's fine. But to me, growing up there, I mean, it's Pennsylvania, for the most part, the whole state's a blue collar, working man state.
Right.
And people work 5 days a week, from 7 in the morning to 5 at night, and they get to hunt on the weekends. When you only get to hunt 1 day a week, it's not fair to people who work so hard their whole lives to have that other day taken away from them.
Right.
When every other state you can hunt on Sundays, and people can't even go to hunting camp because they're going to drive 2 hours to camp and turn around and come right back home.
I hear that.
So I never really understood it. I never understood the point of it.
Yeah. I think it has some religious backgrounds, but I hear that the opposition to that up until this potentially will get passed were actually from the farmers themselves. Like, they didn't want hunters to come to them on Sunday to hunt because that's a lot more interaction. Right? They get one day off, and Pennsylvania is a pretty popular state to hunt.
It is. There's over 1 million licensed hunters in Pennsylvania.
Right. So you get 1 million hunters knocking on the doors to hunt on Sunday, or you shoot one and it goes onto the neighboring property. Now you got to go ask permission to hunt on or recover on that property too.
I get it, but if you own your own property, you should be able to hunt when you want to hunt.
Right.
During the season.
Right. Gotcha.
But like I said, there's arguments on both sides of it, but there's ways they could still have it and make everybody happy.
Yep. Who's your biggest influence growing up deer hunting?
Deer hunting? Gosh, dang. It has to be Fitzgerald's and, the Realtree guys with, with the original Monster Book videos, the Primos guys, the Mossy Oak guys, all those guys that I used to watch when I was kids when, that's why I wanted to get into this.
Yeah.
That's what gave me the drive and the passion for it. So I can't single out one individual. It's those core guys that back then it was a handful of people that was doing this.
Do you have a mentor? Is there actually an individual that you feel like took you under their wing to teach you about the outdoors and how to go about this? Or are you one of those self-made guys where you just kind of jumped in?
Kind of jumped in. Okay. Yeah. I never went to school for it. There's people when I started doing it that told me straight out, and Ernie Calandrelli was one of them from Quaker Boy.
Yep.
That if I ever want to make a living doing this, I need to learn how to do something else besides hunt or hold a video camera. And
that is true, isn't it?
So I taught myself how to edit. I was like, well, if I could do everything, it probably could make me more valuable to people.
As you kind of dance around this industry for a while, you talk to a lot of people, you realize that the vast majority of the people that you meet that are in the industry, that are at shows, this is not their primary profession. There's usually some other profession that's their primary job. And this is kind of
there's very, very few. Even people who own companies within the industry have other jobs and other careers.
Right.
And especially television guys. Like, people think, oh, these guys are so lucky they do this for a living, and this is their only job. And these guys go out and work 50, 60 hours a week in a normal job, and then squeeze this in just because they love doing it. It's not. There's very, very, very few that it's their full-time job.
Yeah. They're going to do it anyway. So they bring a video camera along and then turn it into some kind of a business, right? So that you basically can create a business out of your hobby, and kind of works that way.
Absolutely. And there's so much competition in it now. It's gotten, when I started doing this, there wasn't a lot of people doing it. Like I said, there's those, there was DVDs, there was, what was it, TNT Outdoors on Saturday mornings?
Sure, yeah, man, I remember that. TNT absolutely. That was one of the best.
That was like it. There's that. ESPN, too, was doing stuff.
Right.
A couple shows. It was Primos and Realtree and Mossy Oak. That was it.
Yeah, because Strickland and I talked about this.
Right.
He was,
absolutely.
He was one of the main guys early on, and Mossy Oak hunting the country. That was like you live for that moment just to see what the heck those guys were doing. That
right. Yep. It was that. It was Primos Truth About Hunting. And Monster Bucks.
Yep. It was. You kind of settled down and watched those three. Those were the big ones.
Right.
Yep.
And now there's, oh my gosh, it could be thousands. When you look at these digital platforms and YouTube channels, people have YouTube shows, and and with the networks too, with there being 3 major networks now, there's a lot of hunting shows. There's a lot of competition. There's not a lot of sponsor money out there, which drives, it costs so much money to do, which, a lot of people don't understand that either. You could break it down to what you pay in fuel and airplane tickets, and it's not cheap, and there's not a lot of money out there. So it's tough, man. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah. And there's the barrier of entry has gotten so small. Like with the advent of YouTube and Facebook and social media, you can go shoot your video. It may not be a great video, might not be very well edited, but let's face it, none of those are, no matter what genre you're in, right? They're not well edited. They're just the jump cuts constantly, and that's what all a lot of this viewership. That's kind of where all the kids are right now,
right? And to me, that's what separates them. Like, I don't know, we still get negative comments, with people watching it, and you got to look at it. It's television, and television has to be entertaining. And if it's not entertaining, people aren't going to watch it.
Right.
So to me, that's what separates, the level of shows and the quality.
Yeah.
If you sit down at your TV and you don't look away and you don't pick up your phone, and the 30-minute show goes by and you're like, oh, wow, it's over already. That was awesome. Then that's successful.
Right.
If you're 2 minutes into it and you're like, oh gosh, dude's been whispering for 2 minutes. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
It's, it's got to be entertaining. It's got to be pleasing to the eye. It's got to be funny. People's true personalities got to show out, and, be realistic. None of us are actors. We're just hunters. So
yeah. You're an actor in a sense, but you're not acting. You're just being yourself.
Right.
This is kind of a tough question, because we've gotten in some serious arguments about the direction of outdoor television, and where television is not where it once was, and that the money's kind of drying up, and then people are looking to these social media influencers. And what's your answer to that? Where does outdoor television go from here? Are you starting to look at other ways to get your content out compared to, DVDs? That was one method for a while, but
yeah, they don't even exist anymore.
They don't exist now. It's all streaming.
I swear, I woke up one day and it was all gone. And I'm like, God, I'm getting old. I got to figure out. Yeah. Kind of got to figure it out all over again.
Right. But
streaming's big and digital. But with that, all of the networks have those platforms available too. So if you're a network television show, you're getting that streaming, you're getting digital,
Well, it's funny you say that, because for the first time I've seen them start to catch up. Like, they were the one, they're still the wire plugging into your house, right?
Right.
If you're watching any kind of television or streaming, they still got to plug into your house and give you the feed, unless you're on some kind of digital platform or a digital satellite platform.
Right. To me, television's always going to be there. I don't think it's going away. I think people get caught up in technology a lot. Like, oh, this is going all digital. This is all it's going to be, and TV's not going to exist. And I have a really, really hard time believing that, because, I'm not old. I'm 41, but I tried Sling TV and Roku and all that stuff, and it drove me crazy. I went back to DirecTV, in a week.
Yeah.
But that demographic from 35 on up, for the most part, is sitting down and watching TV. Mm. So I don't think that's going anywhere. I think it's just, it goes up and down, obviously digital's being a huge platform, but I think it's just going to be a blending of both. And to be successful, you got to be everywhere, right? You got to be in people's eyes the whole time. So if the younger generation is all digital and streaming, you need to be there too. But you still need to be on those television networks as well.
JC, I think that is a really good perspective. That's probably the first time I've heard somebody say that with some very good clarity, because you're right. And I don't know if I realized it, but yeah, TV is not what it once was. That's for sure. I mean, I think we all agree on that. But
no, it's not. It's DVR and, you know what I mean?
But it still exists, right? It still will exist in some format. And as long as you understand that, if you look at the pie, the big pie, right? Maybe that traditional cable TV is not as big as where maybe you don't want to put all your marbles over there anymore. Maybe you divide it up, because you got to go where, as you said, go everywhere that people are consuming this thing. You got to be.
Absolutely. And for your partner's perspective too, you know, sponsors, you got to be constantly on social media. That I'm still figuring that out.
Right.
There's a lot of people who do it better than me, better than us, but you got to do it, and you got to be on hitting all those avenues, you know? So the more, the better.
Do you think that there's a compliment? Like, I watched some pretty famous people on Instagram Live last night, and they were advertising for a show that was airing on traditional television. Like, they're using the social media and their personal accounts to tell everybody, go watch my show that's going to be out tonight. But they were having just a conversation. Like, they're sitting on their couches. One was laying down on a couch, just having general conversation, bringing in one of the other actors to talk about the show itself.
It's it's strange, man, to me. Growing up, when I grew up, you know, like, I mean, you could say this as well. Anybody that was on TV, when you met them or got to go to an appearance, you know, I mean, that was a big deal. To me now, like with the social media, just like that, with you, like what you just said, it brings everybody more personal, I guess is the way to say it. I don't know.
It adds an element that we have never seen before.
Yeah. Right? I'm trying to think of the right way to say it.
I'm still trying to figure out the right way to say it too. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know what it is.
Right.
And because the conversation, and you're watching somebody just have this conversation like you're talking on a telephone. You know, there's no scripting, there's no editing. It's just pure, raw, uninterrupted, say whatever the heck you want. But the purpose is,
and it's not just outdoor industry. I mean, it's everything, you know, like actors, musicians,
it's universal. Everybody's in the same boat. It's not just this industry. It's everywhere.
Right. I mean, social media is free, and everybody has it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Everybody has it. My 11-year-old son shoots archery and has his own archery page. Like, he doesn't have it on his phone. We control it, but everybody has it. So you're in a world where how many billions of people, everybody has this outlet. So why not? You know?
Right. Yep. It's not what it once was.
No, man. It's a lot to get used to.
Yep. So I want to talk some deer hunting with you and talk about open season and on the roads. But before we get into that, I got to ask, former pit crew at NASCAR.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I did that for 10 years.
10 years. No kidding.
I'm beat up, man.
It's got to be brutal. I mean, you just
it was because I was trying to do work a full-time job in the hunting industry, the outdoor industry, and it was very tough. So at one point I was like, man, I can't support my family doing this. And I had an opportunity to go to North Carolina and got invited to the pit crew training school. It just, I mean, woke up one day and I was like, all right, let's do it. You know, opportunities, you got to take advantage when an opportunity comes your way. And you only live once. Yeah. Now, a lot of people think different about this, but you get one chance at life. So do as much as you can, you know, make it memorable. So I moved to North Carolina, went to this thing and took a chance. And
so it's a pit crew training school?
Yeah, it's called Pit Crew U.
No kidding. So they actually have their own school.
They do.
It makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of danger involved.
And that's kind of, now they look, the bigger teams, Hendrick Motorsports and Roush and Gibbs and Richard Childress, what they're doing is they're bringing in athletes. A guy who's played a year in the NFL and didn't really make it, or was on a practice squad. Major League Baseball players who would play a year or two and kind of get weeded out. They're recruiting those guys on the pit crews now.
Yeah.
So it's becoming more athletic of a thing, but I'm no super athlete or anything, but I could go for 11 seconds.
Right.
And get a half-hour break in between. But it was an experience, man. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool. That's cool.
It was definitely a single man sport and job. I was married, had my son, so it was tough. It was tough on my wife, but 10 years was enough, and I came back into this.
Gotcha. All right.
Yep.
So tell me about open season TV. We've heard a lot. We've had James on the show.
I'm sorry. I think you talked to Chuck recently too, didn't you?
I was just about to say we've had Chuck on the show.
Yeah.
So James and Chuck have both been on the show. I mean, I'm a big fan of open season TV and the guys. I mean, not only just from an outside looking in, but an insider looking out. You guys are quality individuals. Chuck's a quality individual. James, I just love talking hunting with both of them.
Right, they're extremely passionate about it.
Yeah,
that's why they do it.
Yep.
So that it's the contrast is great. Like open season is, man, like they have a pro staff, and it's a good quality show, and it's hunting, and it's funny that on the road is more entertainment and hunting. They contrast each other, but they hunt together all the time. So,
how'd you get hooked up with those guys?
Anything you want to know, I'll spill all the beans on them.
Let's start with how'd you get connected to them? I mean, that's they find you, or did you find them?
Just being around the industry for so long. It's a very, very small industry. Once you get in it, and I can't even tell you where I met Chuck and James for the first time. They had another editor, producer, and I don't know really what happened there, but Chuck had called me and asked me if I'd be interested in doing their show. And I mean, I was all about it because they've been around forever, so. Right. And like you said, they're good quality people.
Very much so.
Right. And that's pretty much it, man. They called me.
Oh, that's
I don't know. They're probably regretting it now.
They reconsidering their choice there at this point.
I'm sure they are, but I'm not going anywhere. So I hope.
So you're an editor on that show, which, as you said, you had to develop editing skills, and that's how you're making some profession run out of this.
Right.
But you've also taken on this producer role with On the Road Outdoors, and that's with Rock Bordelon and Aaron Lewis.
Right.
So how does that come together from open season? Is that part of that, or are they separate?
Rock and Chuck are very, very good friends, and they hunt together a lot. They have leases together all over the country. So they're not the same show, or, they're not partners together or anything like that.
Gotcha.
They're together a lot hunting. So, I was actually living I moved to Montana. After NASCAR, I managed an outfitting business in Kentucky for 3 years. Then I moved to Montana because I thought that'd be a cool place to live.
Right.
And
was it?
It was a very cool place to live, and it was very, 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 very cold. So I wasn't built for it.
Yeah, that's a cold area. There's no doubt.
But that was another time. I was like, man, I just can't do this no more. We're gonna go somewhere and just live a normal life. And went to Montana, and I was a substitute teacher and the head high school basketball coach and the assistant football coach for high school. And the NASCAR thing, So out of the blue one day, I got a phone call wanting to know if I could fly to Ohio the next morning and film Aaron on a deer hunt. He was on this big deer, and they had him on camera coming in, and they needed filmed, and they couldn't find anybody. So, I mean, they could find people, but, you know, it was somebody they knew and kind of trusted.
Yeah, I mean,
and I knew the guys, you know, so I was like, you know what, I don't have anything going on. I'll do it, you know, as a favor.
Yep.
And 3 days after I got back, they called me and offered me a full-time job.
Very cool.
With On the Road. So that's kind of how that started. And then Chuck and Rock kind of talked to me, and that's how I started doing open season. They're like, oh, well, you know, you're doing our show, you might as well do Chuck's show too.
Gotcha. All right. So you love
so it's kind of thrown into it. I'm like, oh,
2 birds with one stone.
I'm just one person. Y'all know that,
right? So you got.
But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to work. So.
But you got your full-time job too, working in the outdoor industry. So, what are you doing? Are you the camera guy, editor, producer? What roles are you playing in all that?
All of that.
All of that. Okay.
Yeah, and with On the Road, we have another editor.
Okay.
Al Lambert, who is Rock's cousin.
Okay.
And he's doing an awesome job and taking a ton of stress off of me. But yeah, still maintaining relationships with our partners and sponsors and logistics. It's a good one. Logistics and analyst, I guess we'd call it.
Okay. All right. So
part travel agent. And
so there's more to this producer side than just sitting down editing a video show. It sounds like you're doing a lot more than that.
Yes. Yeah. Way more than that. I mean, maintaining good relationships with your sponsors is absolutely key to everything. And if both sides aren't equally getting what they need and what they want, it's never going to work. So that's a big part of it.
How do you go into that conversation? Like, I'm sure a lot of people are asking this, going to listen to this and they'll say, okay, well, how do you maintain that? And do you set the stage in the beginning? How do you let each other know what to expect? It's all about expectations, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is. And you got to put all that out up front, and then you got to maintain it. Like, just being available is key. Like, you know, at least a couple times a week, making a phone call and, you know, seeing how they're doing. Is there anything else we could do, you know, to do a better job at representing them, you know, and then just taking what they say and what they want and what they want to get out of it and making it happen.
Gotcha.
You know, it drives the industry, you know what I mean? Those companies are the backbone of the outdoor industry.
Right.
So we need to maintain the best relationship we can at all times with all of them. Even, I mean, we'll go to shows and gosh, I mean, competitive, let's think how to say this now too. Like other companies that we're not partnered with.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like we try to have a good relationship with absolutely everybody, you know, not just our partners. Because I said earlier, it's a small industry, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah. I mean, you never know what tomorrow brings, right?
No, you don't.
So if you didn't maintain a good relationship with others.
Right.
One day.
And that's just life. That's not even in the industry. I mean, you want to have a good relationship with everybody you come in contact with.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you got to take that through this industry and through life and everything else. You don't want to leave the bad taste in anybody's mouth. Yeah. Everybody in life makes mistakes. You know what I mean? It's how you come back from them, and just genuinely be a good person, you know, and you'll be successful.
That's a good way to state it. That's a life lesson. That's not just this industry or anything else.
All right.
Let's take a little break. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with JC Hall from Open Season TV and On the Road.
Rackology Deer Supplement and Attractant, developed through years of intense scientific research, comes a product that puts it all in one bag. Superior attractant, scientifically formulated vitamins and minerals, and all at a much better price. To get yours today, please check out rackology.org for a list of dealers. Rackology, how can you afford not to use it? Everything deer need, all in one bag.
And now back to our conversation with JC Hall from Open Season and On the Road. So you've, I'm trying to figure out when you hunt. I mean, when do you get to hunt? If you're doing all this producing and videography and editing, when do you get to go out?
I don't get too much anymore. Okay. I used to be pretty good at it. That's why I got into it. You know what I mean? I mean, you get into this because you love to hunt, you love the outdoors. And I mean, when I grew up in Pennsylvania, you couldn't hunt till you were 12. And I remember when I was like 5 and 6 years old, just going to deer camp with my dad and my grandfather and just sitting in the stand with them, you know? And I mean, that was life. And you looked forward to the day you turned 12 years old that you could finally hunt, you know? And that's how I grew up. And I mean, it's been a part of my life since I guess the day I was born.
Right.
I mean, that has always been a huge part of me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, that's how I knew this is what I wanted to do the rest of my life. I can't believe it actually worked. But,
right.
Man, I used to hunt all the time, but it's when we take a break, like during deer season, if we have, I mean, Rock and Aaron are very busy, you know, with their normal lives and normal jobs, and, you know, they can't hunt 200 days a year. So whenever those little breaks are, I mean, I get out as much as I possibly can. Last turkey season, I know it's a big buck registry, but I turkey hunted 68 days in a row with Aaron. And I was living on his tour bus and going from show to show and finding places to hunt in the morning. And then he had to go home for 3 days, and I was in, I don't remember, Kentucky, I think. So instead of driving all the way back to Louisiana, then driving to Ohio, because that was the next place we were going to hunt 3 days, that wouldn't have really made sense to do that.
Right.
So I just drove to Ohio and called one of my buddies up, and I got to hunt for 2 days, and I killed 2 birds.
Nice.
And it was like, dude, the world was ending. I was so freaking excited because I finally got to hunt for myself and made it happen. So when I do get to hunt now, I don't take it for granted.
Was Aaron on tour at that point?
Yeah, he's always on tour.
So if he's on tour, man, that's tough. I mean, he's a musician, right? So you're probably playing late gigs. Turkey season.
He plays over 200 shows a year.
Okay, 200 shows a year. Most shows do not start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
No, he plays every Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
And a lot of times on Sunday.
Okay. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then if you're going to go turkey hunting, which usually starts at 3 a.m.
Right.
Right. So you're pretty much just going right from the show to wherever you're going to hunt. I mean, there's not much time in between. That's
right. So how we were doing it, we looked at his schedule, and so like he had a show at the Grand Ole Opry, and there was the Kenny Rogers tribute show in Nashville. And then the next show was in Kentucky the next day. So right after that show, we left, drove to Kentucky. We were on his bus, so there's a bus driver, so we'd sleep. And when we got to where we were going, he would wake us up, and we'd throw camo on and walk off the bus and go hunting.
It's quite a hunting rig. That is quite
every day.
A hunting
every
rig.
Day, man.
Yeah. Let's take the bus to the hunting spot.
That's what we do. We'd roll right up to the farm.
That is hilarious.
And, it was fun. I mean, a lot of people made that happen. You know, I mean, I was putting it out there on Facebook, like, hey, is there anybody in like around Pikeville, Kentucky, you know, which is who the heck lives there, you know? And, you know, a good friend of mine lived 40 minutes from there. He was like, hey, I'm around there. Why? What's up? You know what I mean? And then I tell him to call me, and we were doing that every single show. We were somehow finding people to let us hunt. And it was tough because you only get to hunt one morning. Right. You know, by the time you figure them out, you got to go to the show.
Yeah.
So
right. You're not going to
we didn't kill a ton of them, but we killed enough of them to make it a lot of fun.
Yeah. You got to, you're right. You can't figure the birds out, and they do have habits and patterns. So you got to figure that out, you know, but.
Right. And I mean, and we do it in deer season too.
No kidding. Wow.
But I just didn't get to hunt this deer season. So They left it out of there.
Let's dig into some of your knowledge of deer hunting. Even though you don't get to do a lot of it these days, you must have to give them some.
I don't get to pull the trigger.
Right.
I don't pull the bow back, but I'm still hunting, man. If you're in that tree with a camera, you better be a hunter and know exactly what's going on and what deer are doing and their behavior and everything else. Because if not, you're gonna be the one that messes it up. And I swore to myself, I am never ever going to be the guy that messes up a deer of a lifetime for somebody.
So what?
Because I don't know what I'm doing.
What are you putting yourself through to make sure that if you're the guy carrying the camera, that you're not the one messing up the set? Because I mean, it's hard enough with one hunter. How do you do it with two and coordinate all that stuff?
It's not easy.
No doubt.
But,
no doubt. Let's give us some of the details. Like, how do you?
I go to the tree like I'm hunting. I mean,
right.
Scent control is huge. I mean, I put my camera in the ozone bag.
Yeah.
Everything. I make sure deer are not going to smell me. I mean, they're still going to smell you. You know what I mean? But everything you do helps a little bit. Then making sure whatever stand we get, the wind's right. I'm always on the apps, like checking the wind direction, checking the barometer, doing everything and going over it with Aaron or Rock or Chuck or James, whoever, making sure we're in the right set.
Yeah.
That it's going to work, because you can't just pop yourself up in any tree and have all that extra scent and everything else and think you're going to kill a deer.
Right. So you actually put your camera in the ozone.
I do.
Does that affect the camera at all?
It hasn't broke it yet.
Wow. Because I mean, the ozone is a pretty damaging molecule, right? It's not the most friendly thing in the world. It attacks everything.
No,
that's why it's good for scent, because it just grabs everything that's close. So if you get any loose particles, I mean, I don't know what the long-term effects of setting a camera in an ozone environment is like, but you got to think that it's not the best place for it.
It's better than when you blow ozone in your face.
Right.
Right. So
scent control. That's number one for you guys. How do you maintain scent control? Like, is it just ozone, or you like washing clothes too? If you're
everything, washing clothes. I mean, every step of scent control, from brushing your teeth with the toothpaste, that kills you. I mean, 90% of human odor comes from your mouth.
Right.
So.
I've heard that a bunch.
Don't take that into account. They just walk out and spray your clothes down and call it a day and hop in a tree. It's and nothing's 100%. You know what I mean? So everything you do, you're just trying to up the odds a little bit.
So
the more you could do, obviously the better.
Let's talk about this 90% human odor comes from the mouth. I mean, yes, I've heard this a million times, and I'm pretty conscious about it. But I think if 90% of the odor comes from your mouth, then shouldn't we focus 90% of our effort on the mouth?
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, and they have gum and they have toothpaste that kills those odors, but I don't see a lot of people using them. And to me, that
seems like we're focused on the other 10%, right?
I mean, think about it. Everything's covered up. I mean, you have layers upon layers upon layers on your body. Mm-hmm. Your mouth, your face, your head are exposed.
Where does that study come from? Or I don't know if it is a study or if it's just something that a rumor.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I've always heard. Yeah. But then you think of it, that's what's exposed. Mm. So most, and maybe that's how they mean it, is when you're layered up, 90% of the odor a deer's going to smell is coming from your mouth.
And what's weird is you can't really smell.
Whatever it is, I know I'm going to do everything I can to try and block that out. So. And
what's weird is you can't really smell your breath real well, right? Maybe if you eat something that's different, but
I don't eat onions. Like, I refuse to eat onions because onions have a strong smell to me.
Okay.
So I won't eat onions because I think the deer smell the onions. Like, I get kind of insane with it.
Onions. Okay. All right.
But garlic is another one.
Yeah, garlic's a big one.
Whether that makes a difference, I don't know. I mean, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So
I
killed some big deer
toothpaste the only thing so you avoid certain foods, but is toothpaste like the only thing other than avoiding certain foods that you use to like neutralize?
There's a couple of companies that make a gum.
Okay.
And a mouth spray. Okay. That to me is essential in having it in your backpack. You know.
So do you have everybody chewing gum and spraying mouthwash into your mouth?
I do. Yeah. I make sure of it.
Wow.
Sitting in a tree, I'm like, here, take this. They're like, I don't want that. Like, you want to kill a deer? Like, that's,
must make for some interesting audio when you're trying to, cut in a comment there. Right?
Sure. I mean, you learn how to talk through it.
See, these are all the little things that you just don't think about, right? Right. Guys are chewing gum so they can keep their scent control down, and then you have to have a little comment that's whispered, and you got to learn how to shove the gum to the side of your mouth so that you don't capture the chewing on camera.
It's the little things.
It's the little things. These are the things that people don't appreciate.
Right. Right. They think everybody's just entitled and gets to hunt all these spots where there's giant deer and they're in a 30-acre fence. And
right.
Gosh dang, man. I mean, we only have 30 minutes, 21 minutes and 30 seconds of actual in-show airtime on a television show.
Right.
We got to break a whole season down into that. Of course, it's going to look like we hunted for 2 days and killed a giant. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's all the time we have. I mean, you do the best to try and bring across the whole season, but man, there's a lot more time and effort and everything else put into it than that.
So if you're on the bus and you're trying to deer hunt, we talked about the turkey hunting stuff I think you can wheel in and out of there without necessarily doing a ton of scouting, but you need to know the birds there. How do you handle the scouting? I mean, scouting's so important.
It is. Summer. Turkey season, dude, we use turkey season to scout deer.
Gotcha.
I mean, everything's bare. I mean, you on early turkey season, everything's died off. You could see trails like nothing, man. I mean, bedding areas where deer are going to, kicking out of. I mean, we're taking all that into account. I make notes on the notes in my phone, what I'm seeing on the properties when we're turkey hunting. So I know in deer season where to be concentrated on and hanging stands. And I mean, then we go in the summertime, always running trail cameras, and just always taking that information, and just trying to figure it out.
So you're because you're not there all the time, and because you're not spending an entire year scouting these areas, you're taking the information you can gather when you're there during turkey season or some of the summer stuff.
Right.
Are you guys hunting like food plots or anything like that? Or are you just going off of trail information and bedding zones?
No, we have food plots. That's what we'll do. And like one of our biggest leases is in Indiana with Chuck. And we spend, the whole summer planting food plots on our leases. I mean, we have leases in a few different states, and then there's some states we hunt with outfitters, but we're very involved. We try to be involved in what's going on.
Okay.
I mean, I guess that's part of my job too, is to always have that information.
Okay.
And in the summertime to be going and doing everything I can to help manage that property.
So how do you go about a lease? I mean, some of us, me in particular, that's kind of a foreign concept because I'm so used to hunting the wide open lands with traditional colonial use laws in New England.
Right.
Not needing to really lease a lot of stuff.
New England's tough, man.
It's tough hunting, man.
I mean, that's where Aaron's from.
I know. He's tough. Massachusetts or Vermont or something like that?
Yeah, he's originally from Vermont and lives in Massachusetts now.
Okay.
Western Mass.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough up here for deer hunting in particular. The
laws are tough. I mean, they make it a lot more difficult than it should be.
Yeah.
But with the leases, man, we just, through people we know, we'll find out the property's available.
Okay.
So I'll go up, say it's in, Iowa. So I'll go up to Iowa, and I mean, not just me, we all do. We'll walk the property, look at it. If we decide to lease it, we'll lease it. And then, like you said, we don't live in Iowa. So we run cell phone trail cameras, to get as much information as we can. We go up turkey hunt it. We go into summer, plant food plots, hang stands, on what we figured out in turkey season with trails and points. Like the Midwest, you always hunt a lot of points. So like when a piece of woods jots out and another on the other side of the field, another piece of woods jots out, those deer always like to cross from point to point.
Right. Shortest distance.
Shortest distance across the field.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I always look for them, and that's the first place I hang a set.
Okay.
Just going off just years of hunting in those kind of areas. That always seems a big buck's going to concentrate on them.
That's a good point. I mean, if you look at these fingers crossing egg, you got to think that that the intrinsically whitetails, and I don't know, not so much muleys, I don't think, but whitetails will always try to stick to cover. If you've observed whitetails for as long as you and I have, one thing that you notice is that they love cover. They will stick to cover for all travel routes. They do not like being out in the open and exposed. They will to eat, but they're still on guard, and travel routes will be stay in cover as long as possible until they have to.
That's why they enter a food source at last light. They're out of there at first light. Mm-hmm. You gotta hunt, and then people say staging areas. You know what I mean? Just like you said, those staging areas aren't wide open. You're hunting a spot with some cover just inside the wood line, off of a food source, because those mature bucks aren't walking out in that field in daylight.
Right.
It's just they will in the rut. You know what I mean? There's does out there, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we don't get to hunt just the rut, so we got to learn how to hunt them every single time of year.
Yeah. How do you pick your outfitters?
Word of mouth, people.
Okay.
Meet them at shows. Like I said, I was a manager at an outfitting business for 3 years, so I met a lot of other outfitters through that.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, we don't like to go with people that we don't know at all, or people we know haven't hunted with, or we want to make sure they're legit. There's a lot of outfitters now. It's almost like the television industry. Everybody wants to be an outfitter,
right?
So that's tough. We've gone places where it's been a disaster. So you live and learn.
Yeah, gotcha.
But which is the way. That's why we try and lease our own land. To manage our own deer, and we know exactly what's going on, and we know that somebody wasn't sitting in that stand smoking for a week before we got there, or whatever.
Yeah, because you can't control that stuff with an outfitter, right?
No, absolutely not, and you can't blame the outfitter. They're trying to make money too.
Trying to make a living.
They gotta have people in there. So
yeah, right. Yeah, it's no blame, but it still doesn't make you a more effective hunter, because there are some things that you're aware of that you are trying to avoid,
absolutely,
like that. They're little things,
right? Any kind of contamination affects the deer.
Yeah,
it's some sort of way. You may not even know it. You may think that doesn't affect them at all, but it does, man. Once you change a deer's pattern, it's over. The best way to kill a mature buck is for that deer to never know he's being hunted. Once the deer knows he's being hunted, it's over. You may be able to kill him with a rifle because you see him moving through a thicket or something, but for the most part, to consistently kill mature deer, they cannot know they're being hunted. Yep. They're not dumb animals.
As a creature, a game creature, right? They're game animals.
Right.
They're not predators. They're constantly learning how to flight. They're not fighting. They're flighting.
Right. They're in survival mode.
Survival mode. They are constantly trying to figure out how do I survive. And the minute that something isn't the same, they're done. You're gonna.
Right.
They'll change their pattern.
Things as simple as where you put your steps on a tree when you hang a stand. Never face your steps towards the trails, the major trail. And not just a mature buck either, but the doe. Very rarely does a mature buck use the same trail as a group of does.
Right.
So you don't want to mess them up either. because they start to get flighty. Then the bucks say, "Oh, something's wrong over there." They're not going over there.
They work together, right, to survive.
Right, absolutely.
They're a team.
Right. So, like you said, I mean, you got to hunt and cover in thick areas where they absolutely have no idea you're there.
Right.
So,
gotcha.
But in the same sense, I'm just rambling now, but one of the most effective ways to kill a mature buck is, my favorite time is the October lull. Everybody calls it the October lull.
Yeah, right.
It's not really a lull. They're just not moving as much because they're kind of prepping up their bodies for the rut. So go into where the bedding area is, and you bump them out of the bedding area and you hang a stand, and within 24 hours he's coming back.
Right.
That's worked a lot. So they still know to be hunted. To that deer, that worked for them. You know what I mean?
Right.
They were able to effectively get out of the situation. Somebody came in there, they're out. So to that deer, for that moment, that spot works for them. Next time they come back in there, the bed, you're there and it's over.
Right.
So.
Right. See, and these are the types of things you picked up over the years and you figured it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Spend a lot of time in the woods, just because I don't get to hunt as much anymore. I'm always in the woods. I study every deer that walks by. I don't care if it's a fawn. I mean, I try to watch their eyes. I mean, I'll pick up binoculars and just watch their eyes and see what they're looking at and what direction they're looking. And I mean, just every little small detail I can. And it's going to help.
Details are important when you're trying to observe and study deer behavior in your area, right? Every little thing can be an indication of where that next set should be and when.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you want to consistently kill deer, harvest deer, however you want to say it, but they're the things you need to do. Right. Now, I mean, you could get lucky and walk in a place and, take the biggest deer of your life. But to do it consistently, you need to really understand the animals,
right,
and their habitat, where they want to be, when they want to be there, and why. And once you figure that out, you're going to be a lot more successful.
Yep, where they want to be, when they want to be there, and why. I mean, that's it. I mean, you got to figure those things out.
Right.
And if you're just guessing, chances are slim.
It's not going to work. And to me, getting to hunt with the people I've been able to sit in the tree with, like Chuck and James are phenomenal hunters.
Yes, they are.
And listen to things they say, and they'll listen to things I say, and we kind of put it together. And and the same with Rock and Aaron and Steve is part of On the Road too. But I mean, just bouncing knowledge off of each other and never trying to think you know more than somebody else.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Or that you've figured it out.
Right. Exactly. Once you think you have it figured out, they do something completely different and then you're back to square one again. Right. So
play your odds, but don't ever think you got it all.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's get into a memorable deer hunt if we could. I know you've been on a bunch with a bunch of different people in all parts of the country. Can you think of one? Can you zone in on one that kind of sticks out? Maybe it's a recent one, or maybe it's your earliest one. I don't know.
Gosh dang, man, that's hard. I mean,
it doesn't have to be a favorite, but something that kind of you might find unique.
There's so many with other people, you know what I mean? That hunts I've filmed or hunts that I guided. I mean, hunts I've guided with kids and killing their first deer, or even with, I'll tell you what, the ones that are even better than that were like the 70-year-old men who have hunted their whole life and never seen a deer bigger than 100 inches.
Right.
And get them on and they kill a 175-inch whitetail.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's special, but I guess like for me, for deer I killed a 208 in Ohio.
Okay. What year? What year are we going back to?
God, I'm so horrible at years. What is it now?
2019.
Gosh, it was like 18 years ago or something.
Okay, all right. So go maybe 01-ish, maybe.
God, thanks for that. I hunted. This was by myself, no camera. I went and hunted Wayne National Forest.
Okay.
down in Adams County, Ohio.
Yep.
And no idea what I was doing. Like, there wasn't cell phones. I couldn't pull up Google Maps and turn it to 3D and see the terrain or anything else. I pulled my truck on the side of the road and just threw a climber on my back and grabbed my bow and walked. And I mean, I knew everybody always used to talk about Wayne National Forest. There's giants there, and it was a great place to hunt. It's state land, or whatever. So I walked, I don't know, close to 2 miles, because growing up in Pennsylvania, you learn when you hunt state game lands
that
you have to go a minimal of a mile in the woods to get into the deer.
Okay. That
because
makes sense.
For the most part, people go in, they only go 100 yards, 200 yards off the road.
Yeah.
And that was a study done by Pennsylvania State Game Commission, because people are saying there's no deer on state game lands, and they did a study and found the deer were just pushed further back in the woods. Obviously, it makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But so people just don't get far enough in the woods. So I took that knowledge and just walked, man, and just kept walking. Started seeing, the further you walk in, I started seeing more deer sign. And then I got to where I started seeing some rubs, started seeing some scrapes, and found 3 white oak trees that were dropping acorns. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. This is where I would be if I was a deer. There's white acorns. That's always been known to be one of the top food sources for whitetail deer.
Yeah. So
I climbed up in a tree, and an hour later, 208 inch deer walked underneath me, and I smoked them.
Wow.
It was like, it's a quick story, but
important.
That one is huge, man, because I took just things I've learned, things I've heard people talk about. I'd never been there before. I had no idea what I was doing, where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew I wanted to get as far off the road as I could, because it's public land, and knew I wanted to find food as close to a bedding area as I can. So when I started seeing the rubs and scrapes come more significant, where you can look around and see, okay, there's a rub there, there's a scrape there, and a scrape there. You're close to a bedding area.
Right.
Because, a lot of times the mature buck they make those signs close to their bedding area for, establishing their home. Yeah. And as soon as I saw that and saw the white oaks that were dropping, I knew I wanted to get up in the tree. And dude, it may not even have been an hour. That deer walked out and I shot him at 20 yards.
You pieced together a bunch of different knowledge that you've acquired over the years, and you made it happen in a short amount of time. And that's a lot of times that's all it takes. But you keyed in on pressure, you keyed in on bedding areas, and you keyed in on food. What else is there? And
it was like I got into, where those scrapes and rubs were, I seen it started getting thicker behind them. I made sure the wind was in my face to where I thought the deer would be bedding.
Yep.
It's just little things like that. Yep. And it all came together. And
that's a great illustrated story.
It was awesome.
Right?
The deer was a tank, 2 drop tines, kickers everywhere. It was unbelievable.
Right.
So,
what a good way to illustrate the quintessential elements of being a successful deer hunter. It's all right there in that one package. Perfect. Well said.
Thanks, man. Never really thought of it like that.
Right. All right.
It's almost like you don't even think of it anymore. You hunt
nature,
so much,
right,
and you learn so much. You go in and you know exactly what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be straight off of that. And that's what you got to do to, and I say big deer and mature deer. There's so much of an argument anymore about, people only shooting 170 inch deer or bigger. And that's not reality. You know what I mean? It's every big deer I shot. If a more mature deer would have walked out before, I would have took that deer.
Yeah.
It's
just happened to be.
It's to what the hunt means to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To the size of the animal doesn't matter.
Yeah.
People get too wrapped up in that. I don't care. If a kid shoots a spike, that means just as much as a guy killing a 180 or 200.
Oh, heck yeah.
If not more. Size means absolutely nothing. All we try to do is hunt mature deer.
Right. Right.
4.5, 5.5 and older.
Yeah. Yep. I like the mature aspect.
Right.
But the meaningful hunt, I think, is more important than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, you said a memorable hunt. I mean, obviously my son's first year was 1,000 times more important than that one I just told you about. But,
right.
Things like that you just never forget them.
Right. But the one you picked as it's a good illustrated point for all hunters to hear of 4 elements that you were keying in on, and it worked.
Right. Yep. It doesn't always work. I mean, it just happened to work that time.
Right. Yeah. That's the other thing. It doesn't always work that way, but it happened to work that one time.
You can't get down when it doesn't work out.
Right.
You got to keep at it. Eventually it's going to. Mm-hmm. If you stay true to everything you know and all the knowledge you have and everything you've picked up, it's going to work. It's just, I mean, deer, they're going to do what they're going to do,
Yep. There's a variable there that you can't control. And
right. Absolutely. Right. I always explain it to people like a dog. Like if you have a dog that, is in the house, you watch your dog. I watch my dogs. Like there's no rhyme or reason to what they do. They want to lay down and take a nap. They lay down and take a nap. They want to get up and run around. They get up and run around.
Right.
There's no real pattern, but that's their home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
right. You can draw
when you find out what a deer, I know what they like to do, so like I know my dogs. So you could take that in with a deer. A deer is an animal. So it's a dog. It's a crazy way to look at it,
but not so crazy.
But to me, it makes sense, and it's worked. Man. I mean, you just figure them out, man. You got to think like you believe they think, and like you said, they're just trying to survive.
Yep.
Just doing their thing. So,
all right, let me hit you with 10 rapid fire questions here, and these are not like.
I've heard about these.
This is just opinions. They're not anything other than that. It's just to try to get to know you a little bit better.
All right.
What's your number one hunting tip of all time?
Wind.
Okay. We all have these things.
Just like one word answers, as quick as I can.
Whatever comes to your head. This is. There's no right or wrong answer here.
Okay.
We all have these things that we sometimes hate hunting without. If we don't have it, we feel a little naked in the woods. What's that one thing for you?
Rangefinder.
Very common answer. I'm with you. No,
is it?
It is. Well, think about it. I mean, I got my bow, but how far away are they? Like, let's use some technology here to really zone that in.
Right.
Yep. No, that makes sense. What's your biggest pet peeve in life?
In life? Oh, gosh. Oh, wow. There's so many. You hit me with a tough one. Tardiness.
Oh, look, that's a good one. Yep. So how old are you today?
41.
41. What would you tell the 20-year-old JC Hall, knowing what you know today?
Don't take anything for granted.
Very good. You're at a hunting convention somewhere in the world, and a stranger comes up to you. You strike up a conversation. They ask you what you do for a living. What do you tell them these days?
I'm an outdoor television producer.
Very cool. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
A banana.
Love it. You can have your own billboard on the side of a highway, completely blank canvas. You can advertise, say anything you want. What would it say?
What are you doing? ? Exclamation point.
I like that. That's a new one. I haven't heard that one yet.
Good.
If I say the word,
it goes throughout a lot of things.
It sure does. It sure
going
does.
on in the world right now.
If I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
My mother.
That's a good one. We get dads a lot, but mom, that's unique. That's good though. I like it. What's a typical day in your life look like?
Oh gosh, I wake up, go to the gym. Mm-hmm. This is recent.
Right.
It's a big thing. We're trying not to die early.
Right. I get it.
Then come back to the office and open my computer up on what project I'm working on and start working, looking at my emails, phone calls, back to editing, phone calls, back to editing. I usually forget about lunch.
Right.
It's pretty much it, man. It's a lot of office most of the time, unless it's hunting season.
Gotcha.
And then I'm still doing the same thing, but in the woods.
Okay. So my last question applies to deer season. And when you do get to hunt, or maybe when you're just hunting with somebody else, what's the typical deer hunting day in your life look like?
Long.
Early to rise, late to bed.
It's 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. Get up, have coffee, have a very, very light breakfast, and then put your time in.
Yep.
It's a lot of long days, a lot of aggravation, a lot of confusion, and then hopefully one day it all comes together to excitement and pays off. But overall, any day you get spent in the woods is better than anything else.
Right.
Except for spending time with your family. So, like I said, what you said about a 20-year-old kid, what do I tell him? Just never take anything for granted. That's what I always try to do when we are hunting somewhere, is never take for granted where I'm at and what I'm doing.
Yep.
And being blessed enough to be paid for it. So
that is awesome.
Just try and stay humble and never forget where I came from and how hard I worked to get there.
Very cool, man. That's
and hopefully kill a deer.
There you go.
That's just the bonus at the end.
Right. Throw that in there on top of that. No, that's great advice, and I appreciate you kind of.
But it's honestly, when I'm in a tree, that's the things I'm thinking of.
Yep.
In the downtime, when kind of deer movement stops or slows down, and time to reflect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why a lot of people hunt. It's quiet. You have time to reflect on things like that.
Yep.
And if you're not, that's really what you should be doing.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. JC, I gotta say, man, this has been an awesome hour, and just kind of going into all the things that make you tick. It's been very educational, and I appreciate you kind of thinking about those things that are kind of second nature to you, but realizing that, hey, you know what, I kind of figured something out, and hopefully that information and that data, that advice will carry on to somebody else listening to the show and help them be better deer hunters and people and individuals down the road.
That's all we could ask for.
Same, man.
But man, I really, really appreciate you having me. I'm honored and humbled that you even asked me. So I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Where can we find more about you if we had more questions, if we created more questions than answers as we went through this?
Back to social media. I'm on social media.
There you go.
But that's where I'm most available, I guess.
Okay.
And On the Road has a page, and so does Open Season. So through any of those channels, and then I'll throw a plug that watch Open Season on Pursuit and On the Road on Sportsman's Channel and Outdoor Channel this year.
Very cool. I'll check that out, as I'm sure other people will too. And JC, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Spend a little bit of time with us.
Yeah. Hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Thanks to JC for joining us on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast. It's a challenge, I think, when you're on the road and you're trying to film for all these guys that have a deer hunting television show. You still got to be a good hunter. You still have to be able to get up in the tree stand and definitely not mess up their hunts. And I don't know, maybe it takes even more skill than trying to set up those guys for their hunt and not moving the camera too much or all that stuff. So I think JC is a pretty darn good hunter. I wish he had a little bit more time to hunt, but I certainly understand where he's at. And we definitely appreciate the production stuff he's doing with Open Season and On the Road with Aaron Lewis and Rock Bordelone and James Blankenbeckler over at Open Season and Chuck Paddock. As you know, we're big fans of all that stuff. And keep up the good work, JC. We appreciate it. Dusty, where can we find you when you're not hanging out here in the studios with me?
Shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can look me up on Instagram and Twitter @ChasingAntler, Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
Likewise, you can shoot me an email, jay@bigbuckregistry.com, and you can visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Twitter, which is twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. We're also on Instagram, instagram.com/bigbuckregistry, and YouTube, which is youtube.com youtube.com/Big Buck Registry. On YouTube, you can listen to all of our podcasts in their entirety. As far as videos are concerned, it's a boring video, but the audio content is there, so you can actually listen to our podcast. You can also listen to all of our live shows that we've done on Thursday nights when we do them, and we've gone back and re-interviewed a lot of our previous guests we had on the show just to put a face to a voice. Let's put it that way. You can always listen to our show on other places as well, not just YouTube. We're found on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and as an Amazon Alexa skill. Go to Alexa and say, Alexa, enable Big Buck Registry. And if you would like to submit a buck to our page for consideration and be featured on our page in front of 250,000 diehard deer hunting fans, all you have to do is go to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, and all of the instructions will be right there. I think that's pretty much everywhere we're at. I think that's a wrap, Dusty.
That's a whole lot of big buck, Jay.
Sure is. I'm Jay Scott.
I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.